Hello and welcome e-Prasaran audience. I would like to tell you that as far as possible, I try to interview the professionals in the English language, irrespective of their working language, with the idea to reach out to a wider audience. Today, I am privileged to have with us Saniya, an award-winning leading contemporary Marathi writer with a large body of woman-centric writings. Her work includes novels, story collections, poems, and numerous articles. Let us talk to her about it. Welcome, Saniya.
Okay, thank you.
She has received the Kavaitri Vahinai, Abhiman Puraskar, and Maharashtra Foundation USA Award for the overall contribution to the Marathi literature world. She is also a recipient of many other awards, which will be mentioned during the course of the interview. Welcome again.
Okay, thank you. Namaskar to everyone.
You have been writing since your school days, Saniya. Did you have a literature background?
I wouldn't say exactly I had literature background, but my father was interested in writing. He had written few articles, but due to his career, and he was an engineer with state government, and his workload, I think he could not give enough time to his writing. So I always believe that perhaps, I have inherited that writing from him. So that must be the only reason. But of course, I was reading a lot. And due to my father's job, we used to go from town to town. So I used to have many opportunities to be in different kinds of schools. One thing I think which has affected me, or rather it has a good effect on me, is I was in Marathi medium school. So I was always in touch with my language. So I was reading a lot in Marathi. So Marathi poetry, Marathi stories. So that kind of atmosphere was there around me.
That is great. So I'm happy that you are continuing the legacy of literature.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to believe that, yes.
Yes. And when did you realize that you wanted to write?
I think I realized it very early on. When I was in school, that was maybe when I was just about 9-10 years. I wrote my first poem as such. I remember I wrote that poem on the piece of paper. And it used to happen that in the school, when the teacher would be absent or she would be late in coming to the class, I would just gather my friends around and tell them stories. So initially, those stories were which I would read in storybooks. And slowly I realized myself that I can also make up stories like this. And then I would make up the stories. Of course, those stories, those days were maybe some king, queen, and prince and princess and animals and adventures and that kind, or magic. But I could make out those stories, and I could construct those, and I would tell. And I realized that my friends really enjoyed those stories. That's then I have been writing. Yes.
And Saniya, who was your mentor in this field since childhood?
I don't think there was any mentor as such, because when I started writing, of course, my father was happy. My mother also was happy. And my friends were really happy. My teachers were happy, because those days in our school, they used to kind of have that handwritten magazines. Every year, every class, we have those kind of magazines. So my teachers would encourage me to write something, some story or some poetry, and they would always include it in those magazines. So I think that kind of encouragement was there around me. And I never stopped since then.
That's great. So, Saniya, do you think reading is a big influence in childhood?
Definitely so. Because when you read, it gives, encouragement to your own imagination. So you also start imagining. At least my journey was like that. When I read the stories, I could also imagine the different stories. I could also construct different stories. So reading helps a great deal. Not that we had a very great library in those days in the school either, or even in the house. Or it's not that we were buying too many books either. Because as I said, my father would be transferred from one place to other. So we had a very typical, very simple and middle class living. So it's not that we collected too many things, but reading does help. It definitely helps your curiosity, imagination of children. So children who read a lot, definitely they will have some kind of a desire to write a lot too. No doubt.
Definitely. So do you think writing is a complex process? Can you explain it to us?
Yeah, writing is a complex process. And every writer, I think, tries to figure out sometime or the other when in her career that, how did I start writing and why do I write and how do I write? Of course, every writer's process may be different. It's possible that, some people get inspirations from different places. For me, I think the life itself gives me some kind of a motivation to write. Basically, I write about relationships, human relationships between the people, variety of relationships in the family, outside, with the society, with friends, with each other, men and women, and variety of relationships. So that always has intrigued me, that how people behave and why do they behave the way they do. What are the thought processes there? What are the stresses in the relationships? And why do we strive so much to be connected with them? Because that is there everywhere. We want to be connected. We want to have some good relationships with people. We always want to be understood by others. And we also want to understand. So I think that's where it starts in reality, the process of writing, that this is what I want to find out. And then there will be a lot of questions. Life itself throws a lot of questions to you. As I said, about relationships, then slowly about life itself, about the death, about variety of things. Then even existential problems that, why am I here? What are we doing here, etc. It comes in variety of forms. So you want to find out something. And what is that meaning? Whatever is my understanding, I think that's where it starts. So I want to express myself into that. I want to express my understanding through my characters. So that's the process of writing for me. I can see the characters in my mind. I can see the situations. I can see how they behave. They may change also, because once I create those characters, they change. Sometimes, they take their own form. They want to say something on their own. At least I like to think like that. So they are actually created by me. But that's a very interesting process. And it's very challenging too. So I like to go through that. Though I'm writing so many years, it still it makes me, joyous. It still makes me very intriguing about the whole process. So that is a complex process. And how it really occurs and how it really gets all those words into the paper is another matter. For every writer, it could be different. But for me, somewhat it's like this.
Okay, nice. You have also worked as a copywriter, right? In the beginning of the career, I think.
Yeah, in the beginning, actually, because I went for commerce, I did not really learn any, Marathi literature, only up to, say, 11th, that those days we were 11th standard, first to 11th. As I said, I was in Marathi medium. So till then, I learned the language and the whatever comes along with that, as a language, Marathi as a language and medium also. Later on, I chose commerce. Why I chose commerce? There wasn't a very particular reason for it. So because it was different those days, very few girls used to go for, doing BCom and MCom. I just went for the course. Then I finished my MCom, and I worked also for about 5-6 years in corporate world. But somehow that didn't interest me so much. It couldn't hold my interest so much because I was writing, my interests were elsewhere. Then I stopped that. Then after a few years, I got this opportunity of copywriting. Earlier, I was thinking whether I should make a career in advertising, because that, again, the interest was there was some creativity in that. Advertising is something, you create, you imagine. So I thought. But this copywriting was mostly bringing in some original advertisements which were written in English into Marathi. But I could, of course, use my imagination in that, play with the words. That was a kind of a playing with language. So I enjoyed that few years. So that sort of work I did for a few years.
Yes. Great. And you also went on to work as a translator, right?
Translator in the sense, only fiction translator. I have done only one book. That time, actually, yeah. Apart from copywriting, that was a kind of, sometimes I would bring the Marathi advertisements into, English advertisements into Marathi. As a translator, I have done only one book, that is Shashi Deshpande's That Long Silence. She had won that Sahitya Academy Award. And actually, editor has requested me that, would you like to translate this book? So I just took it as a challenge. I said, let me do that work. Let me see how it goes about. And that book was quite very, at least Shashi Deshpande's writing was somewhat like what one would write in Marathi. So I thought that process was kind of easy for me. It was enjoyable also. So that book I brought into Marathi. But after that, I did not do any other translation of any fictional books.
Because maybe you got busy in writing. So
yeah, my own writing, of course, kept me busy all the time. And anything which comes to my mind that is much more interesting, and it would be time consuming also. So I did not think of translation.
Certainly. Now, you have been writing for Marathi magazines for a long time. So how is that experience? So it's a different genre, right? Magazines.
Yeah, Marathi magazine, because in Marathi, that the practice is that way, that if you're writing especially short stories, they would be first published in Marathi magazines. And especially during the 40s, 50s, 60s, and up to 90s, and I would say 2000, Marathi magazine, the whole spectrum was very large. There were plenty of Marathi magazines which would come out every month. Slowly, the number came down, of course, due to maybe economic reason or, number of readership. I don't know what exactly was the reason then. But still, there is a very great tradition of Marathi special issues, which we call Diwali. So during Diwali, they bring out the special issues. And that is still a very popular genre. And moreover, people, even the writers, look forward to that kind of, Diwali issues, where they write their stories. So mostly because they are issues, mostly it is limited to short stories and short novellas. So that is basically a platform for all the Marathi writers to get published first. So definitely that's how I started myself. When I started writing for outside, my stories I would send to the good magazines. And there are at least about a dozen magazines which had a good reputation for printing and publishing a good literary kind of stories and poetry and articles. So naturally, I always had that desire that if I write good stories, I wanted those magazines to publish my stories. And I started writing. So my experience was very good. And later on, as the tradition goes, those stories are collected and then they are published in a book form.
Okay.
So that is how it is in Marathi at least.
Okay. And when I read your books, so I could see a reflection of your travels in the writing.
Yeah.
So I would like to know these travels have changed your narratives and perspectives. So
definitely.
Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. Because travel plays a very great part in that. It so happened that I got plenty of opportunity to travel. In my student days, as I said, due to my father's job, we were going one town to another within Maharashtra. Later on, it so happened, I got married, and due to my husband's jobs, I could even live in other parts of the country itself, variety of cities, and then a few years abroad. So, and from there, both of us, since we like to travel, we have traveled a great deal. Whenever it was possible. So those opportunities, I think I'm really very fortunate to have those opportunities. And I made use of them, of course, because I like to travel. I like to see the places around. It's not only the places and the history and the art of art. It's actually, especially when you live in other parts of the country or the world, you always get a better perspective. Because if you're living in your own same, framework, then definitely your mindset also believes that this is all the world is all about. But it's not. It's absolutely varied. So that kind of attitude, it helps to build up. You can see so many other people. You can see the cultures. You can not only you see the differences, but you see the similarities of people. Because ultimately, you like to get connected with people. And in my travel, I really could meet many people. And I've had lots of friends, who lived in different parts of the country and the world. So it really enriched me. And I think definitely that has had a very profound effect on my attitudes. And definitely it has come into the writing as well. Yes.
Yes. I will start asking you about your books now. Right. You received the Maharashtra Government Best Literature Award for Pratiti.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about it? Can you show us the book also?
Yeah, I'll show you the book. This is the book. This is also a short story collection, slightly longish short stories. Okay. They were all written in the 80s. So very early part of my story writing. So I would say that mostly the stories are about young girls who are entering the womanhood, and how they find the world, what are the questions they have, kind of a reflection of perhaps my own journey, because I was also, getting to be a young woman, and I was asking questions. And it so happened that I was brought up in a very, I would say, progressive family. My father was progressive. Fortunately, I was in Pune during the time in 70s when there was a women's movement there. So I could read a lot. Pratiti was basically the kind of stories which of the young women. They are trying to find out something. Especially there is a story. The title story Pratiti itself is like that. That is a young girl, and she's trying to figure out her friendship with another young man, her friendship within the family, and she's trying to figure out that what do I want to be, or who I want to be. There is another story also, Kosh, there, that is also about a girl who has lost her mother, and then how she is trying to adjust to the world. So these are mostly the stories, I think, with those characters, portraying the young characters.
And you received the Maharashtra Sahitya Parishad's Shankar Patil Puraskar for Bhumika.
Yes. Yeah,
so it is a collection of short stories, right?
Yeah, this is the book Bhumika. This is the first edition. Actually, 2 or 3 different publishers had the different editions of that book. And so those are also the stories slightly of the later period, that is maybe in 90s, the beginning of 90s. And again, those are also the stories. By that time, my stories were quite women-centric. Women-centric in the sense that I was trying to find out what exactly the modern woman is struggling with. It is true that my women characters are mostly, at least somewhat educated, and they are urban characters. And some women are trying to build some careers, but some women are not. But that doesn't mean they think themselves to be less. So these are all the questions actually, the women are facing. They want to be connected. They want to become assertive. Because again, I would say that was a reflection of the way I was brought up, and the way I had entered my womanhood. Because as I said, I was telling you that my father was progressive, and the being in Pune during the 70s in the women's movement, that definitely had an effect on me. Basically, the effect was to ask questions, not to accept anything just because it is given to you, just because it is presumed that way, that a girl needs to do this, or woman's role is this and this. So, that was the taken from that women's movement for me. So to be assertive, to figure out who you are, what is it that you want. And maybe though I had that freedom in the house, and I could ask questions, and I could determine things for myself, I was aware that everywhere it's not like that. Even in the middle classes who are educated, it was not like that. And there were many more classes even beyond that. The girls and the women who could not get even education, who could not, but still they were struggling. Some of the working women, they were actually working, they were earning, they were building up their families, but yet they did not have that freedom to decide for themselves. And of course, I would say even today, you would find all those varieties in the society. So I think, but that was the time when I was being aware of all these things. And that got reflected in my stories. So I would put those in the stories, not in a very higher pitch, because I always believed in understanding, trying to analyzing and understanding. So my women, they do not accept the things as they are, but that doesn't mean they go on hurting people or they are very rash or brash. They try to, because they also want to be connected. They are in the lookout for friendships, love, affection, connectedness. So how to balance all that? So I would say those are the stories. And that Bhumika's story especially was it was made into a TV film, and it was quite appealing to, I think, the readers. I got a good response for that. Yes.
Very good. Very nice. Jaivan Davi Smruti Puraskar was awarded to you for Sthalantar. So please tell us about it.
Yeah, I'll just show you. Yeah, this was the book, Sthalantar.
Okay.
This is my first novel, actually.
Oh.
And and I was quite, fortunate enough to get the first Jaivan Darvi Smriti Puraskar. I think Jaivan Darvi passed away and Majestic Publishing House started giving this Puraskar, and I was the first recipient. So I was quite happy to receive that Puraskar. That again is a novel, and it actually depicts the undefined relationship. So, that again, it's a young woman and how she becomes mature in relationships and as well as understanding of the life. Again, there is quite a bit focus of mother-daughter relationship in that, because the mother-daughter relationship is not always very rosy and very nice as it is said or it is presumed to be. There are a lot of underlying undercurrents there. There's a lot of stress there. At the same time, it's a very close relationship. I have a lot of my stories and novels have actually tackled this. And I always find it very challenging to depict that, mother-daughter relationship. So Sthalantar, I think there was a beginning in that perhaps, or of course some other stories might be also there. But Sthalantar specifically talked about it. And yes, that was my first novel. So it was good to receive that award for it. Yes.
Great. Now, I would like to ask a question here. So how does one author or how does a writer decide that, I want to write this, whatever is going on in my mind goes into a short story or a novella or, a novel. So how do you take those decisions?
Normally, of course, again, as I said, many writers may differ in their views and in their processing. As far as I'm concerned, if I want to depict a certain, just a slice of a life, for example, it would be a short story, because I just want to focus on something. I just want to show something which could be just a limited. Like I would say, you may look from a small window outside the world and what you see. That would be a short story. But sometimes I want to tackle a little on the larger scale. There are more characters and the questions which I'm looking for, and my journey itself is a little longer and deeper. So that may become a little longer writing. What happens is my novels are not very long. So far, I have written about 3 novels, and the 4th one is on the way to publishing. They are just about 200 pages, not very long. So I myself don't know whether it will become a kind of a long novella or full-length novel. But it normally depends on what you are trying to figure out. I look at my writing as a journey that I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying, to search answers to some of the questions. And I'm aware that not all questions we get the answers, but somewhere we reach some point where there is an understanding. So we feel, yes, I can now tackle it. I can now manage it. So that understanding my characters reach. So when it is a little more complex, a little more on the different kinds of layers, then I think it turns towards novella or not. If it is just a simple way, you just want to focus on something, a kind of a beam of a light, on certain one corner, then it may be a short story. I mean, that's my simplistic way of saying it. I'm sure critics may explain it better.
No, but this quite explains it.
Okay. Yeah.
You received the Maharashtra Government Best Literature Award again for Sthalantar and Valay.
Yeah.
So, can you show us the book?
Yeah. Valay. This is the one. This is again 2 or 3 reprints are there. So this is the latest one. These are again the short stories. And I think many of those short stories, as I said, they tackle the relationship issues, men-women relationship issues, and the women who are assertive and who are taking certain steps towards achieving what they want to. So Valay specifically has a little longish story, which is called Earth. Earth is meaning of life. And that story is quite, when I wrote it also, it was a bit challenging. Again, it talks about the friendship between the people, And it is a young man who is dying of cancer, and how his wife and his friend, how they tackle the issue, how they look at the life, how that young man himself actually is facing that, and how he himself is looking at life. So again, it is, I'm trying to figure out what is the life all about, what is the death all about, and what is this untimely death, how it affects the people. So it actually focuses on these characters and how the story goes ahead, and what do they find at the end of it. You know, the meaning of life, meaning of death itself. And later on, from this story onwards, I think many of my stories have tried to, you know, figure that out. But what is life about and what is death about?
And for which book did you receive the Kamlabai Ogle Puraskar?
I think that was not a particular book. That is my overall writing career. So sometimes some Puraskars are that way. Like I think that Bahinai Puraskar, as you mentioned, and even Maharashtra Foundation's Puraskar. So the overall service, they think that whatever I have done for the short story, I think I received.
It's for your contribution.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Now I want to talk to you about Omiyage. Is it the correct pronunciation?
Yes, Omiyage. That's right.
Yes, you received the Vibhavari Patil and Vasant Gadge awards for the
Vasanti Gadge. Yes.
Vasanti Gadge. I'm sorry. Please tell us about the book title first.
Yeah, this is the book, that Omiyage. I think the person, I mean the artist who has made the cover, also you will get the hint of it, because this is the Japanese flowers. So Omiyage is a Japanese word. I got an opportunity to live in Japan for a few years. And I really, I mean, not only I like the country, I made very good friends there. And I had a wonderful experience. So this story, it's actually a story of 3 parts, and which talks about a variety of characters. So one character, she is Indian, another character is American, and the third character is Japanese. So I have just, of course, the story, it just builds up, and it happens partly in Pune, partly in US, partly in Kyoto, in Japan. So I have tried to bring in all the characters, wave the story through them, how basically about, again, the friendship, about the loss, about the life, and how people come to terms with it. And I think in these stories, what I wanted to say was that, yes, there are a lot of differences. We always see the outside differences, you know, we call them cultural differences or appearance differences. But inside, as human beings, we are also similar. We are yearning for similar things. We are, you know, our losses, our griefs, our mourning, this is also similar. At the same time, our desire to connect, our desire to love, our desire to have friendship, affection, acceptance, this is also so similar. So I think all these stories, that comes about, that how people are similar, how they are connected, how still they are slightly different in the way they look at life and their attitudes. So the meaning of omiyage is souvenir. So we go to some place and we buy sometimes some small little thing to remember that. So I think it comes like that in a very symbolic way also. And there is some, I mean, something happens also in the story regarding that. So it all comes about. There are other stories also in the same book, and they are also more or less about the daughter who has gone abroad and her relationship with her mother and father. So I think this has given me again the chance to show my characters on the international level in the way, because that is the reality of today, that people do go away. But at the same time, they are connected still with each other, and they are trying to find out something. So I think that comes about there. Yes.
Nice. Then your book, Ashive, what is it about? You received the Ashatai Saundatikar Award for it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. This is the book, Ashive.
Okay.
These are mostly the stories which I wrote around 2000. So I think, as I said, most of my stories get published in a variety of magazines, and then we collect them and publisher publishes them. So these are, of course, even in 2000 means it is more than 10, 15 years back. Some of them, different times. So again, the stories are also similar in the sense my search, I think that our search for human beings and their relationships and the search for, assertiveness of women, it never stops. It always is challenging to me in variety of its form. So it comes about. But more so, again, here also there is one story, which is the title story, Ashive, that itself actually is talking about the forgetfulness which comes at the end of the life. It so happens, perhaps, I myself experienced that in a very close person in my life, that how when you lose your memory, what happens? And that thought itself to all of us is quite frightening. That what happens in the end of our life if we start losing memory. So there is that protagonist who thinks about it, that it is exactly like, slipping away. Certain things slip away from our hands and we just don't remember. So what she looks at it, but she doesn't look at it in that fashion. She just takes it, slowly she learns to take it in her stride. That it's okay, yes, things are slipping away from my hand, but at the same time, whatever is present, whatever is around me, I still need to hold that in mind. So that's it, her realization. So similar stories are there they are not all similar. I'm just giving you example of the one story. So that is the collection of my
okay.
Yes.
Nice. Apart from fiction, you have written 2 books in the non-fiction category. They are Pravas and Vata Ani Mukkam.
Yes. Yes. This is my book called Pravas.
Oh, it's a beautiful cover. All covers are nice.
Yes. Yeah. So this, though name itself depicts Pravas, means your journey. Yes. But as I said, that I was fortunate enough to visit variety of places in the country and outside. So, but this is not exactly a travelogue. What my idea is, I believe that my journey started in my childhood itself. So that journey was of writing. Journey was of, searching something. So I have interwoven all those journeys. Then slowly, wherever I have lived, like I lived in a variety of places, I visited many places. So what is it? What was my takeaway from that? What did I learn? What kind of people I met? What kind of places I saw? What are the experiences which I had? So all that comes there. And then that's how I have woven it. There is a lot of it in wherever I travel, of course, in Europe and in Japan. A lot of things are from, with, of course, some places in India, some very unusual places. So, but that, as I said, it is not just a travelogue talking about the places. It is more about what I have learned, what it has given me in my life, how it has affected me, my attitude. And as I said, definitely when you travel a lot, it gives you an opportunity to learn, see, and broaden your outlook. And that's what I believe it has done to me. And which has helped me as a writer. Because automatically then I look at my characters like this, they also think in that manner. And then, I also feel that, yes, I'm trying to search through my characters something, as I was talking about continuously the meanings of certain things, the answers to certain questions. So that's how it goes about. So Pravas is all about that.
And the other book, Vata Ani Mukkam, that is really, yes. I found it very interesting.
Yeah, this is that book, Vata Ani Mukkam. This is actually a very, very unusual book and very unique experience for all of us. This is a book written by 4 of us. We are 4 contemporary writers. It so happened that we met at some workshop, and other writers are actually Bharat Sasni, Asha Bage, and Milind Bhoti. And 4 of us, we thought that a lot of people ask us questions as writers, like when did you start writing, what were your inspiration, etc. So what are the questions as writers we face? Because we also face certain questions as writers. So we decided, why not write a book? And all 4 of us together, because we consider ourselves contemporary writers. And it is very significant that 2 are women writers and 2 are men writers. Because we always have that attitude in us, the women's equality, and it needs to be there. So we collected all the questions, we tried to answer in our own way. So what we found out, our Vata means your paths, the roads. They are similar. because all of us, we are trying to figure out something, writing short stories, novels, because all of us are contemporarily, we are writing. But our, and where do we want to go? Mukam is our destination, the way we want to go. Is it also similar? Whether our paths may be a little different, but maybe we want to reach at certain place. All of us, we want to get, what is it that we want to look at? What is it that we are trying to figure out? So, of course, all of us, we have answered in our own ways. And that, I think that has come out quite well, in the sense, it is, as I said, it is very unique experience for us as well as for readers too. We got quite a good response to that. That, 4 of us, we have really contributed quite a lot as far as our own meanings of what we do as writers. So that is great. The whole book about. Yes.
You are a trained counselor and you are working in the field of psychology, psychotherapy. So do you plan to write a book in that area?
I don't think I will write a separate book as such on psychotherapy or counseling, because there are a lot of experts who have already written. I'm just a trained counselor. I started in this field almost 25-30 years back. But I find that it has helped me a great deal. First of all, I was always interested, as I said, in human beings, their relationships, their difficulties, issues. So psychology, though I did not learn it in college, later on I got this opportunity. So I did learn these topics and I was trained as a counselor. And now, last several years, I'm working as a voluntary counselor in this field. So what I find is when people come to you, it's not actually we help them. It is, I mean, we do help them in the process, but we ourselves get lot more help because we come to know so much about human beings. It has helped me a great deal. And as a writer, again, that has helped me. It's not that whatever cases come to me or I write case studies. That is no challenge at all in that. As a writer, I don't find writing case studies is a challenge. Constructing something, creating something out of it is a challenge. So what has helped me most is understanding the human beings. That there is almost nothing which cannot happen in human mind, in human behavior, in the human life itself. So there are so many issues, so many difficulties, and still so many times you find people stand up, they become assertive, or sometimes it happens the other way also. They take some wrong decisions and their lives go out of, as far as they are concerned, they think that it's out of control. We try to help them in our own way, as we have learned as a counselors. But more than that, it gives you a complete mirror of the society, the mirror of the people. And that helps me a great deal to understand much more about the people, about oneself, and then helps me in writing too. So that I feel it's the greatest contribution of being a counselor. It all goes, I think, connected to each other.
Connected. Yes. Great. Do you also plan to write something on human rights, since you have done post-graduation in that field?
Yeah. Not exactly right in that. Again, as I said, there were a lot of experts who have written. I was always interested in human rights issues because since, as I said, after my education, I did not do education in that field. But once I started becoming aware of our social conditions, our society, not just our country, but the world as such, the topic of human rights itself greatly intrigued me. So I tried to do this, I did this diploma in human rights law that I did very much later, that is about 10 years back. And I just studied, and it gave me a great pleasure to study the topics, to know about it. And there is a lot more there. It has really contributed a great deal. It has given me a perspective about the human rights itself and what are the things. So what happens is anything which happens, even around us, in our society, or even on the world, it gives you a worldview. It gives you a much broader framework, a much broader understanding. So that way, I think it has enriched me a great deal. And nothing now, just like, I talk about women, about their rights, and children's rights, or the marginalized society, their rights, their history. All this perspective, once you have, I think that becomes like a foundation in your attitude itself. So then it definitely enriches you. It gives you much better way of looking at the world. So that way, yes, it has contributed me. And of course, I think all these things may reflect in my writing, whether it is counseling or the human rights. I need not write a separate book because there are experts in writing the books. Right.
But it has equipped you with all the knowledge.
Absolutely, yes. I think it has equipped me. And of course, every time I understand there is a lot more to learn. And now we do get opportunity to learn, variety of things which we might have missed in our young age. So that way, I think it's a great thing to be happening.
Correct. Going back to your books, we discussed books which have won awards for you. But there are many other books which which you have written. So we would. Can you just show us a few of them?
Yeah, I can just show you. This is also one book which is called Punha Ekda. So there are also the short stories collections, which we collected. Then my couple of my other novels are there. This is Avartan. This was also made into a tele-series. This again deals with the relationship and the death. The relationship after death. The protagonist, how she figures out her own life and what she had, after the death of her partner. So that is the story about. This is again another of my novel, which is called Avkash. This is also about a woman who circumstances, throw her in certain situation, but how she stands up and how she finds her own way of surviving, her own way of living the life. Then, of course, this is one more short story collection called Prayan. Yeah, this also has important stories, and some people have been thinking about making some films and plays on that.
Wow. Okay.
This is Sampadit Saniya, which is we call selected.
Okay.
So a couple of editors actually, they have selected some of my stories and brought out this. Okay. And my latest book is this Suruatiche Divas. This is this is the collection which just came about a year back. This is the latest one.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you for showing it.
It's my pleasure.
Now, after stories, novels, or novellas, you may call it. So, do you feel like writing plays or anything else?
I never really thought about writing plays because I don't think I'm very connected with stage as such. Because any play or drama, when you write, it is not just the piece of literature. It is to be performed. And I was not connected with stage as such. I am not even, because I have lived away from Maharashtra for many, many years. After my young age, actually, I was always traveling and living far away. So I have not really even seen. So I think I don't have that sense. And any playwright needs to have that sense of a stage to write a play. Because just writing a play and keeping it away, it will not serve its purpose. It needs to be performed for the people.
Correct.
But still, I had written 2 one-act plays long back. And some youngsters, actually, they have written to me that they have performed it, which surprised me. Because I thought that I don't have that sense, but still I wrote those small little plays. But that was an old story. I mean, few years back it happened. Yes.
That is great. What, according to you, is the definition of inspiration for a writer?
Inspiration is what makes you write. At least for me, I think curiosity about the life itself. If you have, it will make you go for certain things. It will make you search for certain things. And then having a different perspective. You need to look at the different sides of anything. It is if you are just used to seeing black and white, then the complexities of life may miss you. So you need to look at the complexities of life, because things are not so simple. If you start looking deeper meanings, then they are not very simple. And they themselves will pose a lot of questions, a lot of challenges, which you would want to look into. So that could be your inspiration. So what is around you, what is happening in your own life, in life of people, lives of people around you, in society, anything can inspire. So far you feel that I need to figure out something more. I need to find the meaning of something. and then construct something of your own. That would be a good literature. That's the way I would put it simply.
Yes. Okay. What are your thoughts about the changing scenarios with respect to languages, publishing, even the readership, considering the onset of digital platforms?
Yes, now it has almost digital platform has taken it over, and lot of times, people do complain that there is a very less readership. People are reading less, and publishers also feel. But at the same time, I see that there are a lot of people who want to read, who want to express, and there are books also published. I think the digital platform has given us the opportunity of changing the format of it. What happens is people sometimes resist the change. They feel that, this, published book, the book which I hold in my hand and read, that's the real book. It need not be. For the newer generation, they read it in e-format. They read it on the device. They read it on the phone, even phone. So far that happens. According to me, it should be, one needs to get adapted to that. And younger generation will be different because things keep on changing. They keep on changing in our lifetime itself. So definitely generation to generation, things will change. So in a way, I feel there is a much more scope for this, much more scope for now audiobooks, e-books. And sometimes even the younger generation wants to express through films, short films. I think anything which is creative and which is in an expressive format, there is a plenty of scope. Of course, anytime there will be a lot more which is ordinary, lot more which is good, lot more which is great, or few more which is great. So it will happen all the time. But well, these are all the side effects of everything. But I think it can go. And language is also the same. People talk about language, but when you want to preserve your language, you need to use it in a better way. You need to talk about it. You need to do something about it. Read it, write it, use it in its format, use the really words, And at the same time, I feel all of us, we have a capacity to be multilingual. So just because I like my language doesn't mean that's the only thing. I can always learn more languages. In fact, there are people who really very fluently talk 3, 4, 5 languages. They can read in 3, 4, 5 languages. So they are enriching themselves. They can read much more. So language is something, it is personal. Like I feel good that I was educated in Marathi language so that I'm always connected with my language. At the same time, English is my working language. So I use both the languages, and that much more I'm enriched in that.
That's true. Like they say, another language opens another door. The more
Absolutely,
you learn, the
you're
better.
Very true. Yes, that's very true.
Great. And what do you think should be done to create good literature?
Good literature, again, as I said, there are always people who are very keen in writing, because sometimes some people do ask me that how do I write, how do I put it? So I would always say that yes, all of us, we go through certain experiences. All of us, we have certain questions. Look at it in a deeper manner, Don't, as I was saying, that there are many sides to any kind of an issue. There are a variety of colors. It's not just, it's only 1 or 2 colors. So when you get used to that, you try to look at it from a larger framework, a variety of perspectives. Automatically, you will see more and more into it. And that can inspire you to write and put you in your own way, in your own words, that you can express it. So that and curiosity itself. One needs to be curious about everything in life. Everything should pose the problems in life. So out of that comes the good literature. And good literature is what we want to read. It needs to give you a different meaning of life. Sometimes what happens, we like to read the same things which we are living, which reflects our own life. That is fine. But sometimes some literature is very different. That's why we read very old classics or old Russian literature or French literature or Latin American literature, or within our country also. Now translations is taking a little, forefront. So we read the translated. Why do we do that? Because we want to see how other people the people who are different than us, how do they live their life? What are the questions they are facing? What are the challenges they are facing? And that will again give us the perspective of life. So that is all the good literature.
Okay. And do you think enough training is available to hone the skills of writers, or for that matter, language professionals?
Writers, I'm not very sure, because in the West, they have always that creative writing programs and courses. I'm not very sure whether our universities yet offer them. So sometimes what happens is some writers find, as you were saying, some mentors or good editors who can really figure out what are your strengths, and then help you to focus on those strengths. But as I said, I don't know whether that is happening around us yet. As far as language is concerned, again, there needs to be a lot more professionalism. Once there is a professionalism, then if people can make a career, I'm sure if it pays them well, there will be many more people who will be proficient in language, proficient even in translations. Right now, what happens is there are a lot of people who really love languages, who love more than one languages, and who would like to write or translate. But perhaps they don't get enough, maybe enough money out of it or enough name out of it. So they need to have another career for, to sustain. And then perhaps, you may have to adjust your timings and your energy. So a lot can be done for that. Yes. If overall, our overall, level of education, as it goes up, then there'll be more people who would read, more people who would indulge in language, and more people who can have time, energy, and money to do it.
True. Does a critic's thumbs up or thumbs down matter to a writer, or should it matter?
Yeah, that's a quite interesting question, because there are always some critics who write. Sometimes some critics help, in the sense, if they, as I said, if they could focus on the strength of a writer, or try to help a reader to show them that where is the strength in this particular piece of literature, so that readers also picks up the books and looks at it that way. Sometimes, of course, some criticism may not be as helpful, and some writers may feel very upset about it, that why so and so has done, and therefore my book did not sell well, etc. Personally, if you ask me, I do not take it too much seriously. I mean, I always feel everyone has a right to like or not like what I write. If it reaches my readers the way I express myself, I'm quite happy about it. And there are many readers, sometimes they reach out to you and tell you that, yes, this is exactly, this is how the way I understood. And I feel happy about it. So I feel one should not be too disturbed about it. One needs to do, what one believes in. If you are sure about what you are writing, if you are sure about this is what I want to express, you need to just go ahead and do it. So we can be our own judge in a possible way. Yes.
Okay. Coming towards the end of the interview, I would like to ask, what changes do you think should come about in the language industry?
Language, as I said, I think, again, I might have mentioned it once or twice, that when we love our own language, we need to use it well. Because now that one thing is there, media, of course, any language needs to be very open. It needs to absorb a lot of words, and which even our language, like even Marathi, actually Marathi has absorbed so many Persian words and, older words, Urdu words. So we need not look at it in a very narrow angle. So any language would thrive when you absorb certain things, when you use it very well, when you use it to express yourself. And as you express yourself very well in language, that definitely would encourage your own thinking too. They are all, dependent on each other. How you think, how you analyze, how you express. So that can be done. And as I said, once it becomes, our whole education level becomes a little better in our society, there will be people who would like to learn more languages, go professionally into it, maybe make career out of it. Once they can do it, then of course the whole field is open. And in this digital era, I think there are a lot more opportunities that it can be done. So we need not feel bad that all the languages, but at the same time, it's a reality There are certain languages, when they are not used, they just extinguish. So, yeah. So, of course, still, hopefully, there are people who would read, who would write, and who would help flourish the language.
Definitely. Great. That was a lovely interaction, and it was lovely talking to you.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. Because as I said, very rarely I say all these things in English for the people who may not be in my Marathi circle. So thank you, Lalita, for giving me this opportunity and having this conversation. I enjoyed it too.
Great. Thank you, Saniya. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.